It sounds like someone's been washing up.
Please be outstanding for the Mayor of Colchester, Councillor Robert Davidson.
Good evening, everybody. We're here for a full special council meeting, and there's just one item on the agenda this evening. So I have some housekeeping rules to start with. My name is Councillor Robert Davidson. I'm the Mayor of the Borough of Colchester, and I'm chairing the meeting today. This meeting is being broadcast live over the internet on the Council's YouTube channel and will also be available to watch afterwards. Due to the current COVID situation, and in order to mitigate the risk, the group leaders agreed that only 50% of councillors would be physically present here in the Moot Hall, and with the other 50% joining remotely. But I want to confirm that all of us present in the room are adhering to the latest government guidance. I can assure those watching that the meeting room is set up to meet socially distanced requirements. We will be wearing masks while seated, and these will be removed when speaking and will be worn if and when we leave our seats. We have undertaken a COVID risk assessment for this meeting. To begin, there are more housekeeping matters. Should the alarm sound, please evacuate, using the nearest emergency exit, and assemble at the car park at the rear of the town hall. Can all speakers please remain seated while speaking to ensure that the microphones can pick up what is being said. If necessary, we will look to have breaks at approximately 90-minute intervals. Those councillors who are joining the meeting remotely will be able to participate in the meeting. However, they will not be included in the votes, as only those councillors present in the room are legally able to vote. I'd like to invite the Reverend Terry Walker to say prayers.
Heavenly Father, as the Borough Council comes together this evening to appoint a new executive administrator, may all go well with this meeting. And as you may join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Walker. And I believe you're leaving us now. Thank you. We have apologies, and they've been received from Councillors Barber, Barton, Coleman, B. Oxford, G. Oxford, and P. Oxford. Do any councillors have any declarations of interest on the items on the agenda? No hands risen, so no interests. So we come to item 3, which is the only item on our agenda tonight, and that's the appointment of our next Chief Executive. I'd like to invite Sir Bob Russell, House Steward and Honorary Alderman, to speak. Sir Bob, there'll be a bell at 2 minutes, and you have 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish to speak at this historic occasion because this is only the 5th appointment of a Chief Executive in the history of Colchester Borough Council, which started off on the 1st of April 1974. And also to pay my appreciation, and I'm sure on behalf of all the honorary aldermen, to Mr. Pritchard. I know he's got 3 more months or so to go, but I thought this would be an opportune time as you prepare for his successor. And it's of interest that by staying those extra 3 months, Mr. Pritchard moves into first place. We will not need a VAR, I don't think, or a Lewis Hamilton judgment. John Cobley was Chief Executive, Town Clerk and Chief Executive for 17 years, from 1984 to 2001, but Mr. Pritchard, when he retires next year, will have done 18 years. So he's in first place. The first Town Clerk and Chief Executive was John Allen, 1974 to 1984, and he had been the Deputy Town Clerk of the previous borough before local government reorganisation. And then for 3 years, there was Andrea Hill. Moving on, under Mr. Pritchard's stewardship, he has seen many changes in Colchester, and Colchester has a debt of gratitude to him. I know there's talk about having a board listing the names of leaders of the council, but I think there should be a board listing the names of chief executives, because with the exception of one chief executive, they've all been long-serving. But on Mr. Pritchard's watch, he oversaw the community stadium, Northern Gateway, the establishment of Amphora. He saw the Borough Council's involvement with Merville Barracks. And one of his lasting things he can put in the tick list is a conclusion to Jumbo, or at least the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning, however you want to, with Jumbo. And that's a great success story. And I'd like to pay tribute to all involved in that, not least Mr. Brian Light, Chairman of the Balkan Tower Trust, who's been involved in trying to save Jumbo for many years. I guess the one disappointment will always be the loss of highways, because I feel that if highways was still responsibility of Borough Council, under Colchester Borough Councillors, under the Chief Executive of Mr. Pritchard, and now his successor, things would be a lot better. I thank Mr Pritchard for his many years of service to Colchester, and I welcome Mrs Donnelly as his successor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Bob. Did you wish to make further comments, or you're okay with 3 minutes? Yep. Okay, well, thank you for your contribution, and lots of history in there for the records. Thank you. Well, Sir Bob has explained why we're here. Adrian Pritchard has decided that it's time for him to enjoy life. So I have to say we've been extremely fortunate in having him here for 20 odd years in total. So he knows us well, and in fact he probably got. I just hope he never writes a book. So, but he should be very proud of a lot of the achievements that Colchester has achieved over that time span. And I would just explain that, unless actually Councillor Dundas might explain the process of choosing a replacement. Is that in your speech, Councillor Dundas?
Well, it's in the agenda document, actually, Mr. Mayor, if you've read some of it, but I'll try and expand on it.
I think as leader of the council, I will let you introduce the item. So would you like to move the recommendation contained in the report by the Assistant Director? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the recommended decisions contained in the report by the Assistant Director, Corporate and Improvement Services at page 7 of the agenda be approved and adopted. I'm conscious that the agenda tonight actually says, please note that agenda items 1 to 6 are normally dealt with briefly. We're on agenda item 3, so there's obviously a clear message there not to hang around too long, but I will just say one or two things if I may. This has been a long and exhaustive process. It's been overseen by Solus, who are a very respected organisation who we've used in the past. The role was widely advertised, it involved headhunting, and it has always been conducted in a professional and objective manner. However, I have to say from a personal point of view, it hasn't actually been a very enjoyable process, because in the end, we ended up with a number of superb people, all of whom are clearly capable of being a chief executive, and I have absolutely no doubt or will be. But we had to choose between them and inevitably disappoint some extremely talented people. Nonetheless, the decision of the final panel was unanimous, and I might add that also agreed with the preferences expressed by the cross-party members panel. We made a decision objectively on what was presented to us, and I am confident we have a superb chief executive who will serve us, this council and this borough to the absolute best of her very considerable abilities. I know many will also want to take the opportunity to talk about Mr. Pritchard, Adrian, as we know him probably better. Fortunately, I believe, Mr. Mayor, we may be getting a further opportunity before he departs us to do so, and I fully intend to take advantage of that. I don't want to give anything away. And I also don't want him to get too demob happy. I don't want him to think the job is done yet. But I do want to say a big thank you both for his exceptional service to this borough, but also a personal thank you to him for the help and support he has given me over the last few months. I'm delighted to hear that he is clearly in the lead in terms of long service. It sounds like it's more like the current Ashes series in terms of a definitive result than the Formula One championship, but perhaps the less said about that, the better. But for tonight, councillors, we do have a job to do, and that is to confirm into post Pamela Donnelly as our next chief executive. And I would strongly recommend you do just that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dundas. I've got 6 speakers so far, but I think what would be quite helpful is that the members' appointment panel had the leaders of, they had a member from the 3 main parties and the deputy leader as well of the council. So I think I'd like to call on those first, if that's all right. So Councillor Corey, please, next.
Thank you, Mayor. I did enjoy the process, but I understand what Councillor Dundas is talking about, because we did have some excellent candidates, and I really would like to see them both go forward. The 2 unsuccessful candidates, I do think they're destined to be leaders of an organisation like this one day, and especially our other internal candidate, who I believe in strongly. When it comes to Pam, she is an excellent choice, and I have worked with Pam over a number of years. Her experience in partnership working has actually brought so much success in recent times, but also a good defence against COVID. And the work that was done with her leading the One Colchester partnership has been incredible, breaking down barriers between partners, taking away ego and titles. That's something she does with little effort and great skill, almost behind the scenes. So she will be an excellent leader of this organisation. And as Councillor Dundas said, we were all in agreement, and it was good to see that cross-party working on the day. I think we all challenged the candidates, and we actually found during the process that there are a number of candidates that came forward, not that many external candidates, and we believe from Solace's professional experience that was because we had such good internal candidates, and people knew we had good internal candidates who would be stepping up, which we have got, and we have definitely got in Pam. Turning to Adrian, I do want to say thank you to Adrian at this point. I too have spent many hours with Adrian, either on the phone or in meetings, and his dedication to this place has been excellent. His dedication to telling us what he thinks from time to time has been excellent. And you want that. You want honesty, you want challenge from your chief officers. You want to challenge them back, and we have many times. And I'm sure Adrian had more hair when he started his role. But anyway, it has been a joy to work with Adrian. I do thank him for his service, and also for encouraging people underneath him to aspire for more, which clearly is the case with our internal candidates. Going forward, I just wanted to take this opportunity to not only thank Adrian, but all the staff below Adrian who work in our authority, who have had a challenging 18 months to 2 years, who have covered things from planting trees through a pandemic to picking up our rubbish every single day, to supporting businesses, to supporting our cultural industries. They are amazing, led by good officers at the top, supported by excellent leadership from councillors, and I want to thank them for another tough period going forward and for their generosity and spirit for our borough. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fox was a member of the panel, but he's not currently available. Is he remote? Okay, yes, Councillor Fox, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I hope you can hear me okay. I'd like to reiterate what others on the members' appointment panel have said. There was a very strong competition between the candidates for this role, as there should be, and as demonstrates the stature of Colchester, the nature of the job, and that Colchester is the sort of place that people want to come and work, and Colchester Borough Council is the sort of organisation that people want to help us lead. And I was thoroughly impressed by all the candidates that presented to us, but Pamela Donnelly really stood out. She stood out across the process, as others have said, in her partnership work, in the work that she's done within the council over many years now, and her vision for how the council can continue to deliver for residents as well. And I know that Pam will be a fantastic chief executive for us as we go forward. I'd also like to place on record my thanks to Adrian Pritchard and his dedication, his service to the borough, as has been laid out, and the longevity of his service, I think goes to show the dedication and the that he has delivered for the Borough Council as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fox. And the fourth member of our member appointment panel was Councillor Lissimore, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just again to reiterate what has been said, thank you to all the candidates. It was incredibly hard. I was incredibly impressed by the thoroughness of the whole process. We got the best candidates, 3 candidates at the end that we could possibly imagine, and they all performed incredibly well. As has been said, the other 2 candidates will be chief executives. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But huge congratulations to Pam. I look forward to, I shall speak on another occasion, I'm sure, on for Adrian. We will get the opportunity in the future.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lissimore. And now I come on to the other speakers, and Councillor Julie Young was next. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. The paper before us this evening details the rigorous approach that has been followed to lead us to the point of ratification of the appointment of the new Chief Executive for our historic borough. In my time as councillor, I've experienced the leadership of 3 very different Chief Executives, John Cobley, Andrea Hill and Adrian Pritchard, which have all been very different in their style and approach. If I'm honest, I can't say I had much to do with John Cobley, but what I do recall was a desire to have a change of approach when his successor was being selected, and in came Andrea Hill, who famously steered the start of the First Site development project. Her time with us was short, but had impact, and I have watched her journey through local government world with great interest. She was an agitator for change and came to Colchester after what was a long time in office by John, and change was needed. Adrian then stepped into Andrea's shoes and inherited the problems of the First Site building. But who would have thought that 10 years on, from that rocky start, First Site would become Museum of the Year 10 years later. Being Chief Exec of an ambitious council prepared to take risks comes with more than the odd grey hair. I suspect that as Adrian prepares to retire to take up grandfather duties and be chief playmate to his brood, that the First Site building project Adrian has given us such decisive and considered leadership for so long, which we will all miss. I have found my way to his door in times of trouble on more than one occasion, and he has always given me his time so generously and been so supportive. His family will now enjoy his undivided attention, which I know they are looking forward to. The past 10 years of austerity has tested local government in untold ways. I know that having 51 councillors that all want to invest in their community while having a budget to balance must be another big headache. You don't come into any role wanting to initiate cuts in services, and the declining government funding has led to a need for innovation and much more partnership working to cope with having less money. Which leads me to Pam. I didn't have a part to play in the process that led to this point, but I am delighted to support the recommendation. What I know about Pam is her reputation spreads far and wide, way beyond the borough of Colchester. I was on the fire authority back in the distant past, and officers there decades ago talked about Pam in glowing terms. She has a long history of partnership working, tackling crime and disorder with such strong relationships, developed with a succession of divisional commanders. She has done the same with the health, leading to partnership focused on well-being, such as the like we have never known, drawing in health funding. The One Colchester Partnership, drawing together organisations, especially our beloved Community 360, would never have happened hadn't Pam been there to steer such strong, successful relationships. Colchester has demonstrated an exemplary approach of coping with COVID, and once again, Pam has been at the helm. Our cultural partners have also benefited from Pam's considered engagement and support. With less resources available to individual organisations, those partnerships, which are now maturing, will be invaluable. I know that whether you work in health, fire, the police, culture, or the third sector, there will be cheering when the news emerges that Pam Donnelly has been appointed as new Chief Executive. We have too few women in leadership positions, so this appointment goes some way to redressing the balance. I'm delighted for Pam, but delighted for us too. We will continue to offer the support and care that our residents deserve, which I know is a passion for Pam and also for us. Mr. Mayor, I support the recommendation to appoint Pam Donnelly as our new Chief Executive, and thank you for the additional time.
Yeah, only took 4.5 minutes, Julie. So, but you did have a problem in the middle.
It was worth it, Mr. Mayor.
And it's an important topic. Thank you, Councillor Jowers, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and a lot of things that have been said that really sort of ring true going back over the years. I remember vividly John Cobley and Graham White and the rather ancient and lovely and very pleasant and very comfortable time it was, usually. But it needed a massive rethink and an awful lot of change. So I think probably around about 2001, quite an interesting time really on the changes from Mr. Cobley to a different form of working. I headed an appointment panel which appointed Andrea Hill. It's sometimes forgotten, of course, that we were the first, under her, we were the first borough, district, whatever, in Essex to gain excellent. And the mainstay of that actually was the young chap with the full head of hair who impressed us all so wonderfully at that interview. And so much so that we thought, well, we'd better offer him a job and try and keep him here. So it was pretty obvious that Andrea wasn't necessarily going to be here very long. And that was Adrian. And, you know, it's appropriate to say, I'm absolutely unsurprised that Pam has been appointed. Because our paths are crossed as well. I believe you bursar at the UEA, the Chelmsford University. I can't say the whatever its name is, but just absolutely brilliant and working very well with Joe Killian. But going back to Adrian, because I think, you know, the old adage about true and faithful servant, I wouldn't know how Adrian votes, if he does. And to be honest, that is a tremendous accolade for a chief executive who's run the most disparately unbalanced council in the southeast of England. And yet he's done it. He's held it together. And not only that, no bias. He supported his officers brilliantly. He's completely, I find, completely trustworthy because he'll tell you the truth. If he doesn't agree with you, he said so. And I hope that, and I know that Pam's worked with Adrian, so I'm hoping there will be a continuum of that particular behaviour. I can even remember him being topped up half-pint glasses full of gin with our beloved Peter Crow and being very sensible and hiding them behind an aspidistra. Kevin and I have met lots of chief execs, County Councils Network, Local Government Association. I can tell you there are good and bad and there are brilliant. And I know which one Adrian comes into. He's been absolutely brilliant for us. So it's a great day, really, because Adrian deserves everything we can praise him for, but we have that confidence that we have a brilliant selection for his replacement, whom we know will continue that unbiased, intelligent, thoughtful way of steering this great borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jowers. Next on the list is Councillor King. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jowers, for saying absolutely out loud what I hoped we would between us say, which is public service done well, and I've seen it done both ways. It keeps that apolitical sense of what's necessary and what's right, that good counsel to those in authority, and that sense of a horizon where, in this particular authority, who may be in charge might change. And it's tremendous to hear it. So thank you, John, for saying that. That would one of the things I wanted to say, because it's the biggest challenge. And it's easy to make a remark. Politicians do it all the time about where our officers sit in their sympathies. Their sympathies are with their duty. And it has to be said, Adrian, you've done a wonderful job, not just for what you've done, but the manner of the doing. And for me, that feels right to reinforce. I just want to say two other things. You left me with a great phrase, Aidan Pritchard, which was in one of our corridor conversations under a year ago, about, despite the challenges for whoever's in administration, the privilege of leadership and effecting change. And that's absolutely true. You've demonstrated that by your own actions, your forbearance. That big frame of yours has just kept going. Thank goodness for that. 3 more months, you can see the finished tape. But your example, as I say, has been absolutely spot on. The last thing I'd like to say is just really about synchronicity in the moment. I know, and we haven't had to talk about it, I know others will know that you've had your eye on that finish line and the importance of having nurtured, enabled great people around you to see another opportunity here or elsewhere. So we know when we have a fantastic successor to you, that successor comes with not only their own qualities, but also the same shared ethos. So my thanks to you. I'm really looking forward to Pam coming. No disrespect, because it will bring a change, and that change of emphasis and change of positioning, which I think we're all going to look forward to. So thank you, Adrian, and good luck, Pam. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor King. And as a Whitehall civil servant, I think those are compliments well deserved. It's interesting what's happening up at Whitehall at the moment. Councillor Pearson, I believe you're next. If you did indicate, did you?
No, Mayor, I didn't, but I'm happy to, very briefly. I was elected to this borough 7 years ago, and I remember the induction process quite vividly, where I met with Adrian and with Pam and other senior officers. And I have to admit, on that first meeting, and you should this just proves that you should never go by first impressions, I wasn't sure about Pam. But I've subsequently I've crossed paths with Pam on various external bodies that we've both attended for a variety of reasons in our professional capacity. And I have to say that my experience of Pam in those meetings has been that she really carries the torch for the borough of Colchester in a most exemplary way. And so I'm looking forward to the day that Pam steps into the very large shoes of our retiring Chief Executive, Adrian Pritchard.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. And Councillor Buston next, please.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much indeed for giving me the opportunity to speak. Like a few members here, the older amongst us, I joined the council over 20 years ago in the days of John Cobley. And there were certainly a few shocks that came after that. We were shaken up in many ways, and it was with a certain sense of relief that Adrian took the reins and took over at Colchester Borough Council, because I certainly was one I hope to recognise that he is a consummate professional at what he does. He's hard-working, he's extremely bright, and he knows his onions. He knows what he's doing. And more than that, as alluded to by both Councillor Giles and Councillor King, I didn't have at that time, and I still don't to this day, have any idea which way his political leanings lie. And that, to my mind, is exactly what a chief executive should exemplify. Professionalism, hard work, devotion to the job, and leadership. And Adrian has done that for us in spades. It's not just about standing at the front and shouting loudly. It's having a lot of people that are happy and willing to follow you. When they're wrong, you'll stamp on them. When they're right, you'll praise them. When they need help, guidance, and advice, they can come to you and knock on your door, and you will always help them. And Adrian has done that for all of us, both members of all tribal sides, I'm quite aware, and also personally. And that's fantastic. So thank you very much indeed for that. We'll have more opportunity, as Councillor Small said earlier, to say nice things later. But he'll now be able to go and spend more time with his Labradors and his family, which is a good thing for him. I'm very impressed by the way the handover period has been structured. I think that is extremely professional. Fortunately, we all know Pam, and we've worked with Pam for many years. She's well known to us. She is equally professional. She is equally dedicated. And we know with Pam what we're getting. And from my contact with her over a number of years now, I can tell you it's very good. We are very lucky to have her to actually steer us through the next few years. So, Mr. Mayor, I will be supporting the motion, and I thank both for the time they have given to us in the past and will give to us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buston. Councillor Tim Young, the Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just say that I'd like Councillor Jowers, I was on the panel that appointed Andrea, and I don't regret that at all. I think it was necessary at the time, and she did what she does, and we moved on under Adrian. I'm so made up that Pam is recommended to us being appointed by the panel. I was on the panel when we appointed Pam, and I remember asking her, because she was, as she always is, composed throughout the interview, and I asked her what made her angry, and I can remember suddenly the composure slipped a bit and she said, injustice. And that's what drives Pam. She's the embodiment of decency and compassion. She's a problem solver, and she has that quiet determination, and that's why I'm absolutely delighted, as will our partners be, like Julie said, that she has been appointed. And I very much look forward to working with her as Chief Executive when I become Mayor next May. I also very much look forward to seeing her wearing the wig. I think we're all looking forward to that. It helped Adrian on many occasions when it was a bit chilly. Some of us need a wig more than others, but I'm sure Pam will look great in the wig. As for Adrian, his dedication to Colchester is there for all to see. Despite supporting Southampton Football Club and living in Suffolk, his dedication to Colchester is absolutely 100%. As others have said, he's frank, he's honest, thorough, competent, and always available. As I've known on many occasions, in the evenings, weekends, when I've had cause to ring him, he always picks up the phone or gets back to you, and that's something that we all appreciate. And that's at times of crisis and difficulty, as well as in good times as well. And his wise counsel has always been appreciated by me and members of the Labour group. So I was absolutely delighted when Councillor Fox broke the news to us just before the embargo that Pam was the recommendation to be appointed to this meeting tonight. And I think, as we've seen, Mr. Mayor, that's been shared by the speeches we've heard cross-party, and I'm sure Colchester Borough Council can look forward to her being Chief Executive as we move forward and progress through the next few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Young. The next speaker is Councillor Tina Bourne, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's the season to be jolly and obviously reflective, and I do hope that members don't just save these times to say nice words to our executive officers. In fact, all of our officers who work hard all year round. Sometimes in public sector services, you don't hear that very often, and I think you have to hear that. Our officers deserve to hear that very well. Adrian Pritchard over the years has been various different guises. He's been our confidant, our parent, our confessor, our servant, and on quite a number of occasions, our saviour. If it wasn't for Adrian, we would have got in some quite hard scrapes over the years. And I think it's a mark, the fact that everyone is very, very delighted that Pam Donnelly is going to come after Adrian, not literally come after him, but I'm sure she would if she wanted to, that Adrian has built a team of officers that share the same vision, that have the same purpose, and that can be relied on in a crisis. What has Adrian done over the years? Well, he's had to preside over a joint administration, and that is no mean feat for a chief executive. Not every chief executive gets the privilege to enrich their skills by working with a joint administration. And it is difficult, because it's blooming difficult working within a joint administration, let alone being a chief exec around it. So I'd like to thank him for those many years. And I'm sure we will hear many stories, some more graceful than others, of your time over the last 17 years, Adrian, before you go, because I've certainly got some to share, but not tonight. And I'd just like to say that Pam is top drawer, one of the people that I've ever met that I 100% believe in. Not just because she has a good heart, but because she is strong and determined, and she knows her stuff. And that is quite a quality in this day and age. We have always had the chief exec that we deserve and that we need. And I'm confident that that is coming soon again in March. So I thoroughly agree with the proposal coming forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bourne. We next have Councillor Bentley, the leader of the County Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm of course a Colchester member while I sit here, and I'm just reflecting on my association with this authority, which goes back over 2.5 decades. First as a journalist, when in those days council meetings and committee meetings were reported, as a parliamentary candidate, as a new councillor, and then a cabinet member here, and of course latterly as a county councillor as well. And I was also on the panel that appointed Adrian. I will save my remarks in full to when the time comes to pay proper tribute to him, but I will say this, because I was group leader here for a while as well. I don't think I've ever met anyone so calm and professional about absolutely everything and all of the time. And I valued his guidance and his help. We've kept up a professional relationship and friendship since then, even with me going to the county council as well. And I've sought his guidance and advice throughout. And I'm going to miss that, truly miss that. He has done so much in the 18 years on this authority, most of which is unseen and will never be known. And for that, Adrian, I'd like to thank you personally, but I will do that in full. I've also known Pam for as long as she's been here, and I was involved in the selection processes with Pam as well. And I remember first meeting her and knowing her background from Anglo-Ruskin University and what she brought and what she would bring to Colchester Borough Council. With Pam, the word that really sums her up is about partnership working. You've heard it being said. Pam really gets to the root of a problem very quickly, but more importantly finds a solution. She is going to be the most outstanding chief executive we will have to replace Adrian, who himself is outstanding, and I think will bring a quality not just to this borough council, but all of the councils of Essex and indeed East Anglia. And I look forward to working with her enormously, as I am also sad to say goodbye to Adrian. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bentley. We have Councillor Nigel Chapman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the reasons I particularly wanted to be here to be able to vote this evening was really to, going back, as Sir Bob did earlier on, I think this will be my 5th chief executive as a councillor. I can go back to John Allen, in fact, who was the first town clerk, as they were in those days. I don't think he ever thought of himself as being a chief executive. They didn't. And I think John Cobley was the same. But I think the fascinating thing, and most people have touched on that this evening as they've been talking, it sort of cometh the hour, cometh the chief executive, town clerk. Each one fits in at the appropriate time, and they were the right people for that job, and which is maybe down to how well Colchester recruits its chief executives. I mean, John Allen, as Sir Bob said earlier on, took over from the former Borough Council and formed the new Colchester Borough Council with the other local authorities, Mersey and Lexington Winstry, brought in, and he formed that. Then we moved on to John Cobley, who again put in many, many years of service in a good, solid role as Colchester was at that particular time, I think, doing a lot of those old traditional things that local authorities did. And sadly, he was unable really to face the changes that were coming. And as several other people have said, I too was on the appointment panel for Andrea Hill. And I think she was spot on what we wanted at that time. She turned us around very, very quickly and did an amazing job. And I, again, always try to defend that appointment whenever I get the chance. I think that's the right thing at the right time. And you move on yet again, and Adrian, again, I wasn't, I think I just finished being mayor, and I wasn't particularly involved in how things were going at that time when Adrian was appointed, but I certainly was aware of that appointment. And again, that was what we wanted at that time, a good, solid pair of hands. And Adrian has been that for 18 years, really. I think it's incredible how he, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, if you like, has done so much for this town, so much for this borough, in a very, very quiet, unassuming, but strong and firm way. And I think that is remarkable. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity, as has been said, to thank him properly in due course. I do remember at John Allen's retirement, actually, we had a super dinner down in the mayoral suite. I suspect we probably can't do that sort of thing these days, but that was quite an occasion. And finally, really, I must welcome Pam. I think I really first got to know her when I was portfolio holder for customers, I think it was called in those days, and we worked very, very closely together in various projects. And that was really sort of beginning of partnership working. I think we did various things with various organisations beyond the local authority, which was slightly unusual in those days. And that really is the thing, as so many other people again have said already, partnership is the thing that really goes through Pam's veins. And again, that's cometh the time, it's the right time for Colchester to be in partnership with so many people around us, and Pam will take us forward in that into the future. So I will fully support the recommendation before us this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chapman. That concludes my list of speakers. I've checked with Mr. Weavers, and there are no speakers remotely that wish to speak. I'll give them half a minute in case they change their mind. Okay, no indications. Before I ask Councillor Dundas to sum up, I'd just like to say how grateful we are that Pam put herself forward and has proved herself to be a superb candidate, but also the other candidates that also put themselves forward. Because actually, Colchester is a fantastic place to live and work in. And I think the fact that we had a full tranche of people applying says a lot for what we've done. And how fortunate we have been in Colchester over the years to have both quality and commitment to improving our town and residents' experience from all our chief executives. And I would like to support Sir Bob's suggestion that we ought to have a chief executive's, line of duty perhaps, or something like that, along in the council chamber, along with the other people that have served us well over the years. If anybody's unaware, it was a very stringent 4 or 5 day process. There was a series of interviews. There were interviews with senior management team. There were interviews with backbencher members. There were psychometric tests. There were multiple task tests, and then there were independent interviews with the leader of the council as well. So it's certainly no mean feat to come flying through on the top of all that rigorous grilling. So I think at that point we ought to ask Councillor Dundas to sum up, and we could conclude the business of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have summed up so well yourself that there's probably not much I can add to that, but I will just actually add a couple of thanks. I would like to say thank you to everybody involved in this process, including councillors who were involved in the various panels. But I would like to put on record my personal thanks, and I hope Council will join me in this, to two people in particular, and that is Richard Block and Jessica Douglas, who have done an absolutely fabulous job. They've certainly kept me sane over the process. They've also kept us on timetable. A lot of people said, my goodness, you'll never get it done in that time, targeting December the 20th, yet here we are. So Richard and Jess, thank you very much and well done. I'd like to just echo your comments. Thank you to all those who applied, internal and external. It is a really grueling process. Just filling in the form is a grueling process. So thank you so much. We've also thank you to Adrian. I know there's going to be another opportunity, but we can't say it too many times. And finally, again, to echo what the Mayor just said, I won't make any bad AC12 jokes for those who watch Line of Duty. Thank you to Pam. Thank you, Pam, for taking on this role. As people have said, she will bring some continuity, but equally, I also know, having spoken to her, she's brimming with ideas. So she will bring change, perhaps a bit more than people are expecting, actually. And I'm sure Pam, who is there, everyone here wishes you all the best, and we will give you all our support now and from now on. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I think we should move to the vote.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor Dundas. Yes, I'm conscious that we need to come to a vote. Obviously, only members in this room are allowed to vote. That's a legal ruling from government. But before we do go to the vote, I just want to say thank you to Adrian. You're far too young to retire, you know. Ageism is not one of our restrictions, and you've got all that experience and proven ability to manage councillors of all colours, and you've earned respect as well locally, delivering projects, involving key business people, creating the Colchester ambassadors, creating One Colchester, all of that involving other people other than councillors. I think bringing the town together, and that's been a terrific ability of yours over the years, over the 20 odd years. And also, of course, if people didn't realise that Adrian has also represented the local government association, that's all the 360 odd councils, in negotiations with government. He's taken quite a few leading roles in negotiations, and I think that shows the respect and gratitude that people really would like to shower on Adrian. I do hope new offers will come running towards your door, Adrian. When you think, when you started in Hampshire in 1973, I think it was, how things have changed. And all I'd say is, if anybody is unsure where their career is taking them, don't have limits, or just go for it. And Adrian is a perfect example of, actually, if you get the right leadership and encouragement along your career, you can make a fantastic career, and more importantly, change people's lives. And for that, I'd like to thank you, Adrian. I don't know whether you'd like to say a few words at this stage.
Mr. Mayor, I'm very grateful for the very kind comments. I do hope that we will get an opportunity over the next few months to actually, say a proper goodbye, and for me to also thank all the councillors that I've seen and returned as returning officer over those many years. So I am grateful for all the kind comments, but I would like to reserve this evening for your new Chief Executive, Pam Donnelly. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Adrian. So the Leader of the Council has moved the recommendation, and it's the report of the Assistant Director of Corporate and Improvement Services should be approved and adopted. Is that your wish, councillors?
That's unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
Unanimous. They have a lot of confidence in you, Pamela. I wonder if you'd like to say a few words. There's a table at the front here. Thank you. And just before you start, Pam, and well done, by the way, I wonder if you could give some of the other councillors an idea of the experience you've gathered in your career, because obviously we've seen you in Colchester and we've seen your terrific ability of working in partnerships, but actually we know very little about the early years. So I don't know whether you want to fill us in or not. Absolutely your choice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all this evening. I won't go too far back, if you don't mind, but perhaps just give you a potted history in terms of what I did before I came to Colchester. So I started off my working life in banking and finance, and in fact it falls into 2 or 3 major categories. The first third in finance and banking, where I gained an extremely valuable grounding in how to run businesses, the way in which organisations should run, and learnt some really important principles which I've held dear throughout my career. I then had a significant career change and moved on to Anglia Ruskin University, and several colleagues this evening have mentioned Anglia Ruskin, and I loved my time there, particularly my time working with students, and in latter days as Associate Dean for Health and Social Care, which gave me my first insight into public service and the wider sense and the public sector. And I saw this job. I saw this job in the local paper, actually. I wasn't looking for an alternative career, but when I saw this, I just was instantly attracted to it. And I remember being given the opportunity to speak to the serving chief executive before I applied. And I remember being told, yes, he can find you some time at 10:09. He denies he was so specific, but it was 10:09, and I was on the train station at Marks Tay going into London when I had my first conversation with Adrian, and it has been an absolute privilege to work for the Borough Council ever since. And Adrian knows that I'm being completely genuine when I say I've loved every single minute. So this evening, I'd like to thank you all for the faith that you've shown in me and the confidence you've put in me this evening, and also for your very kind words. I really, really appreciate them. And many of you have spoken about the high bar which Adrian has set, and I hope there'll be lots of opportunities over the coming weeks and months to talk about Adrian's contribution to the work of the borough. I'd just like to say something this evening about Adrian's role as my boss, and that's not a phrase that he would use, but he's my boss and has been for the last 15 years. And he has done nothing but support me and encourage me and create the environment in which I could grow and thrive and prepare myself for this day. And I'm extremely grateful to Adrian for that opportunity. And secondly, I'd like to thank all of you for ratifying my appointment this evening as your new Chief Executive when Adrian steps down at the end of March. And it is genuinely a huge honour and privilege And I'm very grateful for the confidence you've placed in me, and I will not let you down. I'd also like to give you my commitment, my personal and sincere commitment that as your new Chief Executive, I will do everything in my power to support you in supporting your residents as we hopefully shortly move out of the pandemic and see a brighter future for Colchester. Thank you all so much.
Well, councillors, that concludes our business for the evening. So I'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas, socially distanced, of course, and I hope to see you all back here in the new year. I think our next full council meeting is in February. Am I right? Yes, February. And then we've got another one in March. But anyway, hope you enjoy your family time together, and we know the council is in good hands. So well done, and thank you very much for your help today.